Hey, why aren't you lighting this video properly? I don't care. It's a it's a miserable, gloomy, horrible day out there. I'm in a miserable, horrible, gloomy mood, but hopefully I'll cheer up because I'm going to talk about film 2017. A little quick roundup, like I've started doing, a bit of a tradition now, of all the movies I saw last year theatrically. So a tiny little recap in case there's something you missed and you want to hear my opinion on it, and that might inspire you to go and see the film yourself. Plus obviously a couple films I didn't do in my review videos as the year went on, for various reasons, including The Last Jedi, which I'll touch on briefly at the end, as you'll see, because it's chronological. And also, just to make it clear, these are theatrical releases, so I know in my review videos I talked about stuff like The Great Beyond and The Problem with Apu, but I'm not going to go into that stuff. I'm just going to talk about stuff that was released theatrically this year that I saw. It turns out I saw at least 27 movies this year in the theatres, and that's not counting repeated viewings of the same movies, but I think that means I'm getting the most out of my Odeon Limitless membership. I think if you see 2 a month, you're saving some money, so I'm not sponsored, but if they want to sponsor me, that'd be great, because I do love going to see films. Right, so without further ado, here we go. Split! Don't think I talked about this one on the channel. M. Night Shyamalan is not somebody who I've ever been obsessed with, either because I enjoy or don't enjoy his work. I don't think I've actually seen much of M. Night Shyamalan besides The Sixth Sense and Signs. And Unbreakable, which was helpful for the end of this movie. I thought this had a wonderful lead performance from the main character, the girl of the three who sticks around for the story. She was brilliant. I thought that James McAvoy did a fantastic job portraying several characters. I thought it was annoying the film kept going, oh, it's like 23 or whatever, distinct personalities, and we only really see 3 or 4 of them in the movie and about 3 or 4 more in the video logs, which is a shame, because I think McAvoy, in a more low-key film, could probably have wowed us by showing us 20-odd distinct different people. That being said, it's a fun, creepy, slightly leaning on fantasy serial killer movie, essentially, and it's pretty great. It's based on a real condition, but it's wildly exaggerated and does nothing to make people sympathise with people who have similar conditions. So take it with a pinch of salt. It's pure fantasy, using tiny bits of fact to help shape its story, but it's a really great central performance, and the direction is not bad, so well done, Shyamalan. Just realised I'm wearing a beanie kind of like one of McAvoy's characters. I should probably change. Get Out, Jordan Peele's directorial debut. Fantastic movie. Daniel Kaluuya gives a wonderful central performance. Having watched him over the years in programmes like Psychoville and Black Mirror, it's amazing to see him in an American movie and to be the lead actor and to absolutely rock it. Some wonderfully eerie social commentary, some genuinely hilarious laughs. The least you know about Get Out before watching it, the better. But I will say this, it will make you feel uncomfortable for a multitude of reasons, and it's probably my favourite, I think it might be my favourite movie of the year. The Lego Batman movie, aka the best Batman movie since Batman the movie in 1966. It's brilliant. It's a lot of fun, building on the Lego movie style and vibe, and also very subtly acknowledging that it takes place in the same world / basement downstairs as the Lego movie. It's a wonderful character piece that examines what's appealing and what is interesting about the Batman character and the Batman mythos, whilst at the same time doing something that's been needed in these DC films for a long time, taking the piss out of itself and just acknowledging, yeah, this is ridiculous. This is a billionaire who dresses up as a bat to punch, like, scary people in Halloween costumes. And what better way to sort of highlight the ridiculousness by visually the whole thing being in Lego. It's great. It's wonderfully performed by everybody. The writing is fantastic. Some of the gags, like, stick with you after a viewing and just make you wet your pants for the rest of the day because you're just thinking back to them. Lego Batman movie. So much fun. Highly recommend it. Logan! AKA how to gracefully end a character's story arc and put a stopper in a franchise that didn't take the memo because it's still doing more stuff. But Logan's fantastic. It's a horrible, gritty, depressing western, essentially, starring Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, his final turn as the character, and Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, as he announced after the film that'd be the last time he plays it too. I think the actor, I can't remember the actress's name, it's Danielle something, but who plays, Daphne Keane? She plays Laura in this, X-23. Phenomenal, terrifying, really scary, if possible more badass than Wolverine, even though this is the first time we're seeing Wolverine let off the leash because it's an R rating. So yeah, I recommend Logan a lot if you're a fan of X-Men, but you feel like the movies have never quite delivered particularly well, which a lot of them have not, a good 95% of them. So it's amazing to see this be so good, and it's just wonderfully bleak and full of heart, and it's horribly violent, and it's great. Logan is fantastic. Baby Driver has not aged well because of outside forces, considering the nefarious misdeeds and disgusting life choices of one of the lead actors. However, minor spoiler alert, you get to watch him die a horribly painful death in this movie, so you might find it cathartic. Nevertheless, if you make space for the gross stuff, this is a brilliant movie. It's fantastic. Possibly Edgar Wright's best. Ansel Elgort in the lead role is phenomenal. When I heard that he might have been the other person up against Alden Ehrenreich for the role of Han Solo in Solo: A Star Wars Story, I'm like, why wasn't it Ansel Elgort? He's amazing. Lily James is brilliant. Jamie Foxx is fantastic. John Hamm, like everybody is great in this. And it's, I mean, car chases and a sympathetic hero in a classical story. And it's all set to amazing music, a kick-ass soundtrack of like rock and roll and blues and soul. It's Baby Driver's fantastic. Feel free to close your eyes when someone's talking if it makes you feel gross. I completely understand, but I would urge you to still check out this movie at least once, because if you don't, you're going to miss out on something. Go Go Power Rangers! In their first theatrical release since, well, Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie in the 90s. Unless Turbo got some screenings, I don't know. This is fine. Like, it's a lovely superhero movie that, lovely is not the right word. Like, it's nice. The nicest thing about it is watching the 5 teens interact. Those characters are reinvented really nicely for this movie. Elizabeth Banks is clearly having a blast playing Rita Repulsa, this really sort of creepy, witchy version of Rita Repulsa. Bryan Cranston's Zordon is an odd update, but it works, as is like Alpha 5. It's a lot of fun. The best stuff is the stuff that would make a great TV series. Like, if they funded this as a CW style like teen superhero series, I would watch the heck out of it. And I would like to see a sequel just to watch these versions of the characters interacting with each other. However, its biggest mistake is if you're there for the action, you don't get a lot of it. I mean, they're in the suits once, essentially, all of them together, and the Zord stuff's fun, but it's just like, okay. And the one time they use the theme in the movie at one point where but with vocals over the top, Go Go Power Rangers, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. It's meant to be like a yeah moment. It's just like, oh. If you're a fan of Power Rangers, I think it's worth checking out because it's interesting to see it through a big budget lens, even though it wasn't a hugely budgeted movie, but it looks gorgeous. And if you aren't a fan of Power Rangers and you're like, oh, well, I kind of want to see more superhero stuff, give this a go. It's a decent update. It's fun, harmless stuff. Colossal. I caught this on Blu-ray later in the year, and this is great. It's completely a character study and about horrible and compelling human drama disguised as a movie about somebody who can control a giant kaiju monster by moving, and the monster moves with them. Anne Hathaway is great. I'm not a huge Anne Hathaway fan. I always sometimes really enjoy her and stuff, and then other times I'm like, ugh. Like, I don't think she's bad, but there's just sort of personality that shines through. In this, no, I couldn't see her at all. Her character was completely 100% solid, and she was excellent in it. Jason Sudeikis is phenomenal in this, because he will make you feel things you never thought he would make you feel. The visual effects are really nice. The actual monster destroying a city thing is visually a lot of fun, especially when you realise what's going on between her and the monster and the movements, and she starts to test it out. It looks really odd. A great, slightly depressing story, but definitely worth checking out. I recommend Colossal 100%. Give it a go. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a fantastic second entry into the Guardians series, a wonderful Marvel Cinematic Universe film. It builds upon its themes in the first movie about fatherhood, parenthood, legacy, and being an outcast and what that actually means. And like when it's tough, when it feels like it's tough to make friends. Stand-up performances: Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon. Rocket gets some really nice stuff in this movie, but it's all in service of the best performance in the movie, which is hands down your boy. It's Michael Rooker as Yondu. He's just fantastic in this. Considering in the first movie he's like a secondary antagonist who's just kind of funny and a bit weird. In this, they give him so much to play with, and he absolutely smashes it out of the park. Kurt Russell's a great addition to the story. Mantis, played by Pom Klementif, is wonderfully done. Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillan get a lot more to chew over in this one. Dave Bautista doesn't get as much of an emotional punch in this one, but Drax is, again, kind of the show stealer of the group. And Groot's development or sort of backtracking into childhood it's every bit as adorable as you'd hope it would be. Again, brilliant soundtrack, great effects, a really solid movie, and officially cements Guardians as the next series in the MCU that I'm intrigued to see where they go with the third entry. Alien Covenant. Oh, Ridley Scott. I'm sure you used to make great movies. This isn't good. I've not seen All the Money in the World, maybe that'll be great, but Alien Covenant is not great. It's just, it thinks that the story you want to see in regards to the alien and that world is the origins. No. What makes Alien terrifying is that it's this unknown entity. And you don't know what the hell it's about, what its motivations are, what it wants. You just know that it's frightening and will kill you like that. It's a haunted house movie in space. It's great. The original Alien is great. Aliens changes the theme and does some amazing stuff with it. And that is equally great. And also weirdly a different genre. Alien Covenant joins now the long list of sequels and spin-offs of Alien that just don't get it. And it's sad because it's coming from the guy who birthed it all. So, if you're a big fan of the Alien franchise, you might want to check it out for the sake of completion, but otherwise want to skip. Pirates of the Caribbean 5. Ugh. This movie doesn't even star Captain Jack Sparrow. It stars Johnny Depp doing an impression of someone's impression of Captain Jack Sparrow. Since doing my initial review, I found out that he was fed a lot of his lines through earpiece. Thinking back to the movie, you can tell there is that lack of passion. Some amazing people made this movie. It looks stunning. As far as like technological marvel of movie making goes, it's beautiful, but it's just so pointless. So pointless. And the first Pirates film where you feel like you need to do the required reading to understand what's going on. Even the third one, which was part 2 of a 2-part movie, you could sort of leap in and get the gist. This one, I'm sat there watching it, and I like Pirates movies. I like the first one a lot, and I do enjoy the fourth one, and 2 and 3 have their moments. And I was sat there going, wait, what? Huh? And I nearly went to turn my phone on in the cinema just to check Wikipedia to see what I was missing. Pointless dross. Just end it now. Bum 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 bum. Wonder Woman. I really enjoy Wonder Woman. I'm going to say it now that the hype has died down, and people won't get offended by it because they're thinking a little more clearly. It's not a perfect movie. It's, if you wanted to compare Wonder Woman to anything in terms of like its genre, I'd compare it to the first Thor and the first Captain America. It's fine. There's a lot of fun to be had in there, but it's fine. Culturally, what it did, obviously, very important, especially the fact that box office wise, it has finally, once and for all, let's hope they learn from it, proved to all the higher-ups within the Hollywood exec hierarchy that, yeah, a female-led action blockbuster is something the world wants to see. Look at the money this has made. So, hopefully this movie, regardless of it just being fine, with some really cool moments, will be the cultural touchstone that starts to change things. I have every hope for that. Gal Gadot's performance, Gal Gadot, is wonderful in this film. I think it's because specifically of Patty Jenkins' direction. Compare Gal Gadot in Batman v Superman to Wonder Woman. Completely different character. She's wonderful in Wonder Woman. A Chris Reeve kind of Superman-esque curiosity and sense of innocence, and she's pitch perfect in this movie. The cast in the film are great. There's a lot of very by-the-numbers stuff, but there's stuff that's just amazing, like Robin Wright and all the soldiers on the beach, like all the Amazons kicking ass at the start. It's so good. Really, really enjoyed Wonder Woman. And judging by the box office numbers, I imagine you did too. Transformers 5, The Last Night. I hope it is the last one. It won't be. They're developing a cinematic universe. Garbage. Absolute garbage. Worth watching on Netflix or whenever it arrives on a streaming service and you're not having to spend money on it, at least once, to watch what it looks like when Anthony Hopkins is given a paycheck and no one tells him what to do and he just goes nuts and does what he wants. He's the only person who benefited from Transformers The Last Night's existence because he got a paycheck and it looked like he was having a blast because he's Anthony Hopkins and Michael Bay probably was too intimidated to direct him. So, yeah, apart from that, just garbage. SpiderMan Homecoming, a lovely entry into the ongoing saga of Spider-Man being adapted into film. Nice little MCU movie. Sort of felt like a spin-off, which I suppose is appropriate in terms of the production history, but it felt like a spin-off from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, this was a tie-in issue. But what a tie-in issue. Great villain, brilliant central performance, fantastic kid cast, not the best this year though. And yeah, some great action set pieces. I didn't hate the Starkified spider suit because it fit this story. Although I'd like to see it with a slightly more reduced version in the future stories they tell with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like the look of the suit, beautiful, but get rid of the tech. Or at least minimise it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Michael Keaton's Vulture is phenomenal. Ned is now the best friend I think we all want. Yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming, a lot of fun. Still the best Spider-Man movie. 2004 Spider-Man 2 is going to take some beating, but pretty good all the same. War for the Planet of the Apes. Love it. If you enjoyed the first two, you will adore this one. If you didn't see the first two, you'll probably still enjoy it, but it's very much a finale, and it feels like a finale, and it works like a finale. Andy Serkis once again proves that utilising, everyone always says he's acting through CGI, no, like utilising CGI animation and visual effects to bring a performance that on film you can't do without it being laughable. Like, you could, in theatre, he could play an ape, and we'd all buy it, because we're like, yep, we're here to watch theatre, we're here to watch an actor perform. In cinema, he needs to look like an ape. Caesar is one of the most compelling characters in modern cinema. His journey across the three films is excellent, and especially in this one, it's about testing the man, the ape, like testing who he really is, and how far he'll go to protect his family. It's the Logan of the Apes remake trilogy. If that makes any sense. Right down to the final scenes, actually. So, yeah, worth a look. War for the Planet of the Apes, excellent finale. Interested to see where they go with the series from now on, but all the same, would be happy if it ended here. The Dark Tower, the first of the Stephen King theatrical adaptations that I saw this year. Garbage. Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black looks like he's having fun, but sort of wasted. Idris Elba as the Gunslinger is brilliant casting, but he's wasted. The main character has been sort of tweaked a lot to suit this sort of pseudo Harry Potter franchise chasing version of the Dark Tower story. If you want the full thoughts on why it was terrible and the execution was wrong and how much better it could have been, check out our Big Damn Cast episode about the Dark Tower, because Matt is a big fan of those books and he goes into detail about it. This also feels like Sony's pathetic attempt to be like, see, we do have a cinematic universe, look at all the Stephen King story references in our movie. It's like, doesn't work. Please, please let a good Stephen King adaptation come along soon. Oh, wait. It is excellent. I've watched it twice this week on Blu-ray. Best young cast in a movie, probably since The Goonies, let's be honest. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Moving the main story to the 80s is a smart move because it sort of cashes in on recent 30-year cycle nostalgia for the 80s. And sort of by sheer beautiful coincidence, Stranger Things, not just because of Finn Wolfhard being in both. Pennywise, I mean, Bill Skarsgård, mate, amazing work. People had a fond memory for the TV movie, the TV miniseries with Tim Curry, but let's be honest, when you go back to look at that, there are some things to admire, but the only solidly entertaining thing in that entire TV miniseries is Tim Curry's performance of Pennywise. So Bill Skarsgård did have very large clown shoes to fill, and he does an excellent job. He's not trying to best Curry, he's not trying to imitate Curry or be on the same plane. His Pennywise suits this adaptation, and it's an amazing collaboration of an actor, director, and effects and costumes teams. It's great. It's so much fun. Not the horror film that everybody's like, oh my god, it's so scary. I mean, it's scary in places, but it's not a horror film. It's a fantasy that's told through a horror prism. And I think if you watch this as a kid, I've not spoken to any like kids or young teens who've seen it. I hope they haven't, because it's 15, they shouldn't be watching it. But at the same time, we all watched older certificate movies when we were younger. I'd be interested to see how a kid felt about it. Because much in the way the miniseries traumatised like a generation of 90s kids, I wonder what this one's going to do to the nightmares and imaginations of today's kids. Be interesting to find out. Or maybe they'd just be horrified by the New Kids on the Block poster. Who knows? Mother! I'm all for art house movies sneaking into Hollywood, but when an ad campaign pretends it's a horror movie, and ultimately there is no message to the film, and it's just an allegory, I have to ask, what is the point? Add to that Jennifer Lawrence is someone I don't particularly enjoy watching. Someone on Twitter described her when they were talking, it was all the Red Sparrow trailers coming out in December. Someone on Twitter described her as cold chips. There's something there once we really enjoyed, but now we're kind of sick of having it shoved in front of us because we've realised it's not that tasty. Oh, good for us. I'll never get over that Golden Globes thing she did where she just like mocked the foreign reporter twice for using his phone to read the translated questions out. It's just like, wow, what an arsehole. And then defiling those rocks in Hawaii, I think it was, like damaging sacred rocks. Arsehole. She's fine in this, but she doesn't really bring much beyond what you've already seen her do. The appeal of this movie is the shock value and the cinematography. So if you're up for being sort of horrified, give Mother a watch. But aside from that, I see no point in ever revisiting this myself, and I don't know if you'd enjoy it. Make up your own mind. Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle. Ugh. Take all the stuff that was gratuitous and not that great about the first Kingsman, and then turn that into the sequel. It dials up the smut and the edgelord, like, you know, look at us, yeah, we're edgy, look at this, look what we're doing here, like, oh, we're going to put a camera in this is, yeah, aren't we edgy? It's like, no. No, what was appealing about the first one was the My Fair Lady storyline, Eggsy and Harry's chemistry, the super slick, confident style. Those things are here, but in much smaller doses. It's not a spoiler because he's in all the trailers and the posters. Harry being alive completely undercuts the weight of the first movie, and the explanation as to how he's around eliminates death from the Kingsman universe, so there's no stakes anymore. Couldn't care less. Bookmark strong. Blade Runner 2049. I'm not a big fan of the original Blade Runner. I appreciate why people are fans of it, and I understand completely, especially the Vangelis score, but this one I enjoyed a lot. I think it was just because the story was a little tighter, but not compressed. It's not trying to tell a story and get it done with. It's taking its sweet time, but it's a more straightforward tale. It keeps the neo-noir feel, but it is a bit more about discovery, and it's more of a character piece than the first one. Ryan Gosling is fantastic in it. The AI character, I don't want to say too much, but the AI character he spends a lot of his time with is a wonderfully tragic note for both themselves and him, and really kind of makes you feel for this guy. Visually it's great, definitely feels like it belongs in the same world as the first one. Jared Leto's pretty eerie. Worth a watch. Failed at the box office, apparently, based on its budget and what they're hoping it would gross. So save it on home video. I'll be picking up the Blu-ray. If you give it a watch at the cinema and you liked it, pick up the Blu-ray. Prove to Hollywood that we do like things. to be a little bit more experimental. Just not mother experimental. Thor Ragnarok! Great! The best movie ever painted on the side of a panel van in the 80s. It's a rock album cover brought to life. It's funny, it's ridiculous. It's probably my favourite feel-good movie this year, Thor Ragnarok, in terms of just like a blockbuster that made me go, oh, I feel great coming out the back of it. So much fun. Chris Hemsworth brings the comedy chops, which we've seen touches of in the last couple of years in movies like Ghostbusters. We got to see, yeah, this guy's funny. Thor has evolved as a character over the course of the MCU movies. Let's let the funny happen in Thor. It's not an out-out comedy, but it's the freaking closest genre that I can think of when describing the movie off the top of my head, because it's a laugh. The action's fantastic. The fight scenes are stunning. Cate Blanchett brings a lot to Hela, who I think on paper would be just as bland as the other MCU villains. But there's just something about her delivery and that mischievous glint in her eye and that sort of like mega sexy confidence and frightening like violence from her, that she brings a little more of an element to it that is missing from a lot of the MCU villains. Hiddleston's a lot of fun as always. Hopkins, again, getting away with nonsense, but probably because they filmed with him for like 2 days. So he was just like, I'm gonna have a laugh. Mark Ruffalo's great. Tessa Thompson's freaking amazing. Please put Valkyrie in another Marvel movie soon, guys. And Taika Waititi's direction and style and tone just enhances his movie tenfold. Plus Goldblum. Need I say any more? Jigsaw is pointless. I'm a fan of the Saw franchise. I acknowledge that it's like only 40% great and then 60% dross. Now you can make it about 70% dross and 30% great. It's not good. It's wonderfully restrained in a way that is refreshing after the more brutal entries in the later half of the series, but it also feels like it's lost its teeth. So it's like, Best thing about it, Tobin Bell. Obviously, he's only in a few scenes. I think he's in one scene actually, properly, but Tobin Bell. Best thing about it as always. If you want to watch Jigsaw, don't bother. Go back and watch the first two Saw movies again. Justice League. Imagine going back 10 years. I can do that. Imagine going back from 2017. Go back 2007. To tell 16-year-old me, hey, Chris, 10 years' time, they're finally going to make a Justice League movie. And it'll be shit. I'd be devastated. A movie that suffers, for many reasons, production reasons aside, a movie that suffers from the fact that it is the, if you count Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad, this is the 5th movie in a franchise. So we're in Avengers territory now. Avengers was the 6th movie in the MCU. And yet you don't feel like you know or care about any of the characters in it. Not even Wonder Woman, who was the previous one we'd seen in the series, because she's behaving very out of character, and we find out that some of her motivations since the events of Wonder Woman make her seem kind of pathetic and withdrawn in Justice League. A bunch of actors either not giving a damn on camera, Affleck, Momoa, or being underutilised or used wrongly, Ray Fisher, Ezra Miller, Gal Gadot. Henry Cavill's mustache, CGI mustache coverage is hilarious. Good on you, Paramount, for standing your ground with that. You trolled Warner Brothers like crazy. I really wanted to enjoy it, I did, but the problem is I hated Batman v Superman. Batman v Superman is required reading for Justice League, because even though the movie tries to pretend Batman v Superman never existed in terms of its tone and the fact they're trying to be like, hey, we're fun now, all of its plot points need you to know what happened in the events of Batman v Superman, and yet also forget them. Like, know what they were, but not know them properly. Superman was a beacon for hope. The world loved him. Thought in the last film everybody hated him. What's going on? Stupid. Absolutely stupid. I would like the DCEU, or whatever it's called, to die, but it's not gonna. Because we've got Aquaman on the way. And a Wonder Woman sequel, which, yay, but we'll see. If you want my full thoughts on Justice League and a big-ass review, check it out. It's probably in the suggestions. Murder on the Orient Express. Not the best version of this story. For the best version, read it, or watch the Albert Finney or Peter Ustinov versions of it. It's fine. Star-studded cast are clearly having a blast. Oh, that rhymed. Put that on the poster. Don't. But ultimately, it's just odd. It gives a big, sweeping, blockbustery vibe with its establishing shots and its score and the level of profile of the cast members. And yet, the ending to Murder on the Orient Express, without giving anything away, is not a big, happy blockbuster ending. It's not a Scooby-Doo, Poirot, Marple reveal moment. It's something a lot more complex and complicated than that. And the tone of the film leading up to the end of the story, just it serves to leave you feeling a bit cold after it's over. Plus, it's sequel baits. I don't want that in a Poirot movie. Weird. And no, it's not Marple showing up after the credits to say, I need to talk to you about the Christie Initiative. Tommy Wiseau is not a nice man. He's an eccentric and a curiosity, absolutely. But he's not a nice man. And this film, The Disaster Artist, does not skirt around that. It looks at the filmmaker, utilising the Greg Sestero and... what's the other guy called? And Tom Bissell, got the book there. It utilises that memoir to create a very Hollywood version of events that led up to the making of the movie The Room and the life of its co-star Greg Sestero and director, writer, and lead actor Tommy Wiseau. It doesn't shy away from the fact that he's a horrible person, but ultimately it's also a Hollywood movie, and it's a love letter to a film that these comedians like James Franco and Seth Rogen all enjoy watching and having midnight screenings of. So because of that, it is made from a place of love. It's a story about striving to achieve your dreams and about how things might hold you back, and you may be way in over your head, but ultimately you can still create something good. And it's a bad movie, is bad art ever truly bad when people have different reactions to it? The Room is an incompetent, horrible mess, and yet people really enjoy watching it because it makes them laugh. So, put your Hollywood rose-tinted glasses on, you'll have an absolute blast. Even if you know all the true stories, there's still stuff to enjoy if you're a fan of The Room. Worth checking out. Ed Wood's probably still the better example of this kind of movie, but I would recommend The Disaster Artist. Catch it now before we find out even more scummy things about its leading man. And finally, Star Wars The Last Jedi. I'm not going to go in depth. I know I didn't do a review on the channel, but I did one for Big Damn Cast, so in a moment I will link it over here if you want to give it a listen. I am in the camp that did not enjoy this movie. It's the first Star Wars film that left me feeling cold. I mean, at least I come out of Phantom Menace laughing my arse off. I come out of Attack of the Clones shouting passionately at the screen. Come out of Revenge of the Sith going, oh, it's not as amazing as everyone says it is. It was fine, I guess. I came out of this one just like not feeling uplifted, nor am I excited for the future of the franchise. I appreciate Rian Johnson wanting to take the reins and steer a story in a direction that he wanted to tell, and not be copy and paste with what we all assume was going to happen in terms of like themes and whatnot. However, The Force Awakens was a refresher course to remind the world, after the prequels in the last couple of decades, to remind the world what Star Wars was. It captured the feel of Star Wars perfectly. And then it left some plot threads to be the story for this trilogy. This film drops about 95% of the plot threads within the first 10 minutes. And it's like, yeah, screw that. And I just found that sort of disrespectful. No, I wasn't a Snoke theorist. I wasn't like coming up with, who raised parents, like fan fiction in the interim. But all the same, I'm like, oh, you're sort of dropping this, that, and the other, are you? Okay, I was kind of invested in finding out what that meant. So that's a shame. I also feel it doesn't utilise some of its actors particularly well. Like John Boyega is just kind of along for the ride, even though he was very much the heart and soul of the last one. And Daisy Ridley's kind of given interesting territory, but not great dialogue scenes to work with. Mark Hamill does a very good job playing the Luke Skywalker that's on paper, but you can kind of tell it's not the Luke Skywalker even he was imagining it was going to be. So, yeah, I know those of you who love it and are aggressively passionate about your love for The Last Jedi, because I've encountered some of you on social media. Will probably be saying, oh, you just don't like this, don't like that. Don't make assumptions. Go listen to this podcast. You can find out my grievances. I didn't hate it. I just didn't enjoy it. Matt really did, so you'll hear a nice little balance. Of course, you can catch all my weekly film reviews on Big Damn Cast, Big Damn channel, when we talk about them in the podcast. And yeah, there are a bunch of films I want to see this year, but haven't yet, so I'll probably talk about them in a future video. Bye and that.